The rain battered the cliffs of the Oregon coast, drowning the violinist's notes as I stood in my wedding dress, my veil trembling in the wind. My sister, Lila, was somewhere in the chaos of the reception hall, her smile sharp as a blade. I thought I knew her, my confidant, my shadow, but today her betrayal would unravel everything. At 31, I was about to learn that love, even for family, could break you. The Oregon coast was a wild, gray beast that September morning, the Pacific churning below the cliffside venue where my wedding was unraveling before it began. At 31, I, Nora, stood in the bridal suite of the Driftwood Lodge, a weathered cedar hall perched above the sea, my reflection blurred in a rain-streaked window. My dress, ivory lace, chosen for its simplicity, clung to me, a second skin that felt both sacred and suffocating. The storm outside mirrored the unease in my chest, a premonition I couldn't name. Today was meant to be a beginning, my vows to Theo a bridge to a future we dreamed of. But Lila, my younger sister, was a shadow at the edge of my joy, her presence a question I hadn't dared to ask. The lodge was alive with preparations, the scent of cedar and roses mingling with the salt air seeping through cracked windows. My bridesmaids, old college friends, Mara and Jess, bustled around, adjusting my veil, their laughter a forced brightness against the storm's roar. Theo, my fiancé, was downstairs, his calm voice organizing ushers, his steadiness a balm to my nerves. Mom and Dad were with the guests, their pride a warmth I'd felt all week. But Lila, my maid of honor, was late, her absence a small cut in the fabric of the day. I smoothed my dress, my fingers lingering on the lace, and tried to push the unease away. Lila and I had always been close, our 3-year age gap a bridge we'd crossed with shared secrets and late-night talks. At 28, she was my mirror, darker hair, sharper cheekbones, but the same hazel eyes, the same laugh. She'd been my rock when Dad's business failed, when Mom's drinking spiked, when I doubted myself. Her excitement for my wedding, helping choose flowers, planning the rehearsal, had felt genuine. She's just nervous, I told myself, my inner voice a plea. She loves me. She'll show up. A knock broke my thoughts. Mara poked her head in, her curls damp. Nora, Lila's here. She's weird. Said she needs to talk to you. Her frown deepened my unease, but I nodded, forcing a smile. Send her in, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Mara hesitated, then left, the door creaking shut. I paced, the rain's rhythm a drumbeat, my mind flashing to a memory of Lila at 16, crying in my arms after her first breakup. You're the only one who gets me, she'd said, her voice raw. I'd held her, promising we'd always have each other. Now, as the door opened, I hoped that promise still held. Lila stepped in, her emerald bridesmaid dress clinging to her frame, her hair wet and loose. Her eyes were red, her smile tight, a stranger's face on my sister. You look beautiful, Nora, she said, her voice soft but edged, like a blade wrapped in silk. Thanks, I said, stepping closer. You okay? Mara said you needed to talk. She crossed her arms, her gaze flicking to the window, the storm's gray light carving shadows on her face. I just needed to see you before it all starts. Her pause was heavy, her words careful. You're really doing this, huh? Marrying Theo, leaving us behind. My breath caught, her words a jab I hadn't expected. Leaving. Lila, I'm not going anywhere. Theo and I are staying in Portland. You know that. She laughed, a brittle sound. Sure, but it's different now. You've got him, your perfect life. What about me? What about Mom and Dad? Her voice cracked, and I saw something raw, jealousy, maybe her grief, flicker in her eyes. I reached for her hand, but she pulled back. Lila, you're my sister. Nothing changes that. What's going on? Talk to me. She shook her head, her lips trembling. You wouldn't understand. You've always had it together. Job, Theo, this wedding. I'm stuck. Her words hung, a confession I didn't know how to answer. I wanted to hug her, to fix whatever was breaking, but the storm outside roared louder, and her distance felt like a wall. Before I could respond, Jess burst in, her voice urgent. Nora, the officiant's here, and the guests are soaked. We need you downstairs. Lila's face closed off, her moment of vulnerability gone. She brushed past me, muttering, I'll see you out there. I stood frozen, my heart pounding, the rain's relentless drumbeat echoing my confusion. What's wrong with her? My inner voice demanded, fear and love tangling. Lila's words, leaving us behind, stuck, cut deep, hinting at a wound I hadn't seen. Hope surged. Maybe I could reach her, mend this before the ceremony. But disappointment followed, a whisper of doubt. She pulled away, her anger a mystery I couldn't solve now. The wedding was starting, and I had to walk toward Theo, toward a future that suddenly felt fragile. Downstairs, the reception hall was a chaos of damp coats and murmured complaints, the storm delaying the outdoor ceremony. Theo found me, his dark eyes steady, his hand warm in mine. You okay, Nora? He asked, his voice low, sensing my tension. Lila's upset, I admitted, glancing at her across the room, where she laughed too loudly with a cousin. I don't know why. He squeezed my hand. We'll figure it out after. Right now, it's you and me. His calm anchored me, but Lila's shadow lingered, her cryptic words a puzzle. Mom approached, her smile strained, her perfume sharp. You're stunning, sweetheart, she said, but her eyes flicked to Lila, a worry mirroring mine. Dad was with the guests, his laughter forced, the family tension a current beneath the surface. As the ushers moved chairs indoors, I caught Lila's eye, hoping for a sign, a smile, an apology. She looked away, her jaw tight, and my stomach twisted. The storm outside was no match for the one brewing within her, within us. I wanted to believe this was nerves, that she'd come around, but her words echoed, what about me? I was flawed, too focused on Theo, maybe, too blind to her pain, but I was resilient, and I'd face whatever she was hiding. The ceremony was moments away, but the real test was coming, a betrayal I couldn't yet see, its weight heavy in the salt-soaked air. The Oregon coast roared outside the Driftwood Lodge, the storm's fury a mirror to the turmoil in my heart. At 31, I, Nora, stood in the reception hall, my wedding dress heavy with damp lace, the weight of my sister Lila's cryptic words, You're leaving us behind, pressing against me. The ceremony was moments away, but her sharp-edged confession in the bridal suite had cracked something between us, her jealousy, or grief a mystery I couldn't unravel. Theo's hand in mine was a tether, his calm a promise, but Lila's distance, her tight smile, her averted eyes, cast a shadow over the day. I was resilient, but flawed, blind to the depth of her pain, and as the guests settled, I felt the first tremors of a betrayal I couldn't yet name. The hall was a makeshift sanctuary, chairs hastily arranged under cedar beams, the roses I'd chosen wilting in the humid air. The storm had forced us indoors, the cliffs outside obscured by sheets of rain, the Pacific's roar seeping through the walls. Guests whispered about the weather, their damp coats draped over chairs, but I felt their eyes on me, sensing the undercurrent of family tension. Mom hovered near Dad, her hands twisting a napkin, her smile brittle. Dad laughed too loudly with an uncle, avoiding my gaze. Lila stood by the makeshift altar, her emerald dress stark against the gray light, her posture rigid as she adjusted a candle. What's wrong with you? My inner voice pleaded, fear and love tangling. I wanted to cross the room, demand answers, but the officiant signaled, and Theo squeezed my hand, whispering, It's time. The ceremony was a blur, vows spoken, rings exchanged, Theo steady, I do, grounding me. His kiss was warm, his smile a lighthouse, but Lila's presence at my side was a cold weight. She handed me the bouquet, her fingers brushing mine, her eyes empty. I searched for the sister who'd planned this with me, who'd laughed over cake tastings, but she was gone, replaced by this stranger. Hope flickered. Maybe it's just today, her nerves, but disappointment surged, her earlier words echoing, I'm stuck. As we walked down the aisle, applause ringing, I caught Mom's eye, her worry a mirror to mine, and knew this wasn't just Lila's storm, it was ours. The reception began, the hall now a swirl of clinking glasses and forced cheer. The storm battered the windows, the seas roar a constant hum, amplifying my isolation. Theo danced with his mother, his joy a contrast to my unease. I sat at the head table, my veil discarded, trying to smile as guests offered toasts. Lila was across the room, laughing with Mara, but her glances at me were sharp, fleeting. I felt alone, the weight of her distance a stone in my chest. What did I do? My inner voice demanded, doubt creeping in. Was I too wrapped in Theo, too blind to her struggles? I'd always been the steady one, job at a non-profit, stable life, while Lila's path was messier, her art degree unused, her temp job's a cycle of frustration. Had I missed her unraveling? A flashback hit, vivid and raw. 5 years ago, Lila was 23, living with me in Portland after a bad breakup. We'd sat on my couch, wine glasses in hand, her voice breaking as she confessed, "I'm not like you, Nora. You've got it all, career, friends. I'm nothing." I'd hugged her, insisting, "You're everything, Lila. You'll find your way." She'd stayed for months, painting in my spare room, her laughter returning. But I remembered now, her quiet moments, staring at my photos with Theo, her voice tight when I talked about our future. Was she jealous even then? I wondered, the memory sharpening my doubt. I'd thought we'd healed her, but maybe I'd only patched the surface. Back at the reception, Mom approached, her perfume sharp, her hand on my shoulder. "You're glowing, Nora," she said, but her eyes flicked to Lila, now alone by the bar. "She's off today. Did something happen?" "She's upset," I said, my voice low, the storm's drone swallowing my words. "Said I'm leaving her behind, that she's stuck. I don't know what she means." Mom's face tightened, her napkin crumpled in her fist. "She's been quiet lately, struggling with work. I thought she was happy for you." Her hesitation hinted at more, a secret she wasn't sharing. The family dynamic was shifting, cracks forming, Mom's worry, Dad's avoidance, Lila's anger. I felt caught, the sister who'd always fix things, now powerless. "Talk to her later," Mom said, but her tone lacked conviction, and I nodded, knowing it wouldn't be that simple. I approached Lila, weaving through dancing guests, the storm's rhythm pulsing in my veins. She stood by the window, staring at the rain, her drink untouched. "Lila," I said, my voice soft but firm, "we need to talk. What's going on? You're scaring me." She turned, her hazel eyes sharp, a mix of pain and defiance. "Scaring you? You're the one who's got it all, Nora. Theo, this wedding, your perfect life. I'm the one who's scared of being left with nothing." Her words stung, raw and unguarded. "I'm not leaving you," I said, my voice breaking. "You're my sister. Why can't you tell me what's wrong?" She laughed, a jagged sound. "You wouldn't get it. You've never had to fight for anything. I'm drowning, Nora, and you're just sailing away." Her voice cracked, tears welling, but she turned back to the window, shutting me out. I stood frozen, her words a blade. Drowning. My inner voice echoed, guilt and anger colliding. I'd fought, through Dad's bankruptcy, Mom's drinking, my own doubts, but Lila saw only my wins, not my scars. A memory flashed. Lila at 18, sketching in our backyard, her talent bright, but her confidence fragile. I'd promised to help her shine, but had I failed her, too focused on my own life? Doubt gnawed, isolating me further, the storm outside a roar that matched my heart. Theo found me, his hand warm on my arm. "Nora, you okay? You look like you're a million miles away." "Lila's falling apart," I said, my voice trembling. "And I don't know how to fix it." He pulled me close, his breath steady. "You can't fix everything. Just be here for her, for us." His words were a lifeline, but Lila's accusation, sailing away, clung to me. I glanced at her, now dancing with a cousin, her smile a mask, and felt the family fracture deepen. Mom and Dad were distant, their own tensions a quiet hum, leaving me to navigate this alone. The reception continued, music swelling, but I was adrift, caught between love for my sister and the growing fear of what she might do. The storm outside was unrelenting, and I sensed a bigger one coming, its shape still hidden in the shadows of her pain. The Oregon storm raged on, its wind howling against the driftwood lodge, a fitting chorus to the chaos within me. At 31, I, Nora, stood in the midst of my wedding reception, my ivory-laced dress of fragile armor against the growing fracture with my sister Lila. Her cryptic accusations, "You're leaving us behind," "I'm drowning," had pierced me, revealing a resentment I hadn't seen brewing. The reception hall, with its cedar beams and wilting roses, was a pressure cooker, the guests' laughter a distant hum as I grappled with her pain and my own guilt. Theo's steady presence anchored me, but Lila's sharp glances and Mom's worried silences hinted at a deeper betrayal, one I was only beginning to sense. I needed answers, and I couldn't wait any longer. The dance floor pulsed with music, couples swaying under flickering lights, but I felt like I was underwater, the storm's roar through the windows drowning out the joy. Lila was near the bar, her emerald dress catching the light, her laughter with a cousin forced, her eyes darting to me then away. I tried talking to her earlier, her words, "You've never had to fight," cutting deep, exposing a rift I hadn't fully grasped. How long has she felt this way? My inner voice demanded, doubt and hurt tangling. I'd always been the fixer, steadying Mom through her drinking, supporting Dad after his business failed, cheering Lila's dreams. But now, I wondered, had I been overlooked, my own struggles invisible to them? A flashback surged, raw and vivid. I was 26, Lila 23, the year she lived with me in Portland. She painted in my spare room, her canvases bold but chaotic, her confidence brittle. One night, I'd found her crying, her sketchbook torn. "I'm a failure, Nora," she'd said, her voice small. "You've got your job, Theo, everything. I'm just stuck." I'd held her, promising, "You're talented, Lila. You'll find your place." But I remembered now, her quiet envy when I got a promotion, her silence when Theo proposed. I thought it was her struggle, not resentment, but had I missed the signs, too focused on my own life? Guilt gnawed, but so did anger. Why hadn't she told me, trusted me? I caught Mom's eye across the room, her napkin twisted in her hands, her smile fading when she saw Lila. Dad was with his brother, his back to us, his avoidance a silent admission of the family's cracks. The dynamics were shifting, Mom's worry, Dad's distance, Lila's anger, and I felt like the linchpin, holding us together while my own heart frayed. How long have I been carrying them? My inner monologue pressed, a realization dawning. I'd been the steady one, but at what cost? My sacrifices, nights spent calming Mom, loans to Dad, hours cheering Lila, had gone unnoticed, my own needs buried under their chaos. I couldn't wait for the reception to end. I crossed the hall, the storm's rhythm in my veins, and approached Lila, who was now alone, staring at a glass of wine. "Lila," I said, my voice low but firm, "we need to talk. Now." She turned, her hazel eyes narrowing, a mix of defiance and exhaustion. "What, Nora? You want to fix me in the middle of your perfect wedding." Her tone was sharp, her words a blade, but I saw the tremble in her hands, the crack in her armor. I stepped closer, the guests' chatter fading, the seas roar louder in my ears. "You're not stuck, Lila. You're my sister, and I love you, but you're shutting me out. You said I'm leaving you, that you're drowning. What does that mean? Tell me." Her laugh was bitter, her eyes glistening. "You really don't see it, do you? You're the golden child, job Theo this whole day. Mom and Dad lean on you, brag about you. I'm the screw-up, the one who can't get it together. You're moving on, and I'm nothing." Her words hit like a wave, pain and resentment crashing. "That's not true," I said, my voice shaking. "I've fought for everything. Dad's debts, Mom's drinking, keeping us together. I've never seen you as less. Why didn't you tell me you felt this way?" "Because you wouldn't get it," she snapped, her voice rising, drawing eyes from nearby guests. "You've always been enough, Nora. I'm the one who's not. When Dad lost the business, you bailed him out. When Mom fell apart, you fixed her. I tried. Painting, jobs, everything. But I'm still the one they pity. And now you're married, gone, and I'm left with their mess. I froze, her words a mirror to my own buried pain. Have I been blind? My inner voice whispered, guilt and anger colliding. I'd carried the family, but I hadn't seen Lila struggle, her sense of being overshadowed. A flashback hit. Lila at 20, showing me a painting, her eyes bright with hope. Think I could sell this? She'd asked. I'd praised it, but I was distracted, rushing to a meeting. Had I dismissed her, even unintentionally? I didn't know, I said, my voice breaking. I thought you were okay, that we were okay. Why didn't you trust me? Trust you, she said, tears spilling, her voice raw. You were always ahead, Nora. I wanted to be happy for you, but it hurts, seeing you soar while I'm stuck. I don't know how to stop it. Her confession was a wound, her pain real but her resentment a wall between us. I reached for her, but she stepped back, her face closing off. I can't do this now, she said, wiping her eyes. It's your day. Just forget it. She walked away, joining a group of cousins, her smile a mask, leaving me stranded in the hall's chaos. I stood, my heart pounding, the storm outside a roar that matched my turmoil. Lila's words, golden child, not enough, cut deep, exposing a family dynamic I'd ignored. I'd been the fixer, but at what cost? My role had overshadowed Lila, made her feel small, but her silence, her refusal to trust me, was a betrayal of its own. How long have I been overlooked? My inner monologue pressed, anger flaring. I'd poured myself into them, Mom, Dad, Lila, yet they hadn't seen my sacrifices, my own fears. Doubt gnawed. Had I failed Lila, or had she chosen to push me away? Theo approached, his hand warm on my back. Nora, what happened? You look wrecked. Lila's falling apart, I said, my voice trembling. She thinks I'm leaving her, that she's nothing. I didn't see it, Theo. I don't know how to fix this. He pulled me close, his voice steady. You can't fix her heart. Just keep loving her, even if it's messy. His words were a lifeline, but the stakes felt higher now. Lila's pain wasn't just about today. It was years of resentment, a fracture that could break us. Mom and Dad were distant, their own guilt or denial a wall, leaving me to face this alone. The reception continued, music swelling, but I felt the ground shifting, Lila's motives blurred by grief and envy. The storm outside was relentless, and I sensed a betrayal looming, its shape still hidden, its weight a tide I couldn't outrun. The Driftwood Lodge trembled under the Oregon storm's relentless assault, its cedar walls creaking as the Pacific roared below. At 31, I, Nora, stood in the fading light of my wedding reception, my lace dress heavy with the weight of Lila's resentment. Her confrontation, her raw confession of feeling stuck, overshadowed by my perfect life, had exposed a fracture in our family, a tangle of unspoken pain and blurred motives. The guests danced, oblivious, but I was adrift, my role as the family's fixer crumbling under the realization that I'd been overlooked, my sacrifices unseen. Theo's love anchored me, but Lila's sharp words and Mom's evasive silences hinted at a deeper betrayal, one I could no longer ignore. I was resilient, but flawed, and tonight I faced a choice that would change everything. The reception hall was a swirl of music and laughter, the storm's gray light casting long shadows across the cedar beams. Lila was by the dessert table, her emerald dress a stark contrast to her forced smile, chatting with a cousin but avoiding my gaze. Mom and Dad sat with old friends, their faces tight, their distance a silent admission of the family's unraveling. I stood near the window, the rain's rhythm a pulse in my veins, my inner monologue a storm of its own. How long have I been carrying them? I wondered, anger and guilt colliding. I'd steadied Mom through her drinking, bailed out Dad's debts, cheered Lila's dreams, but their needs had eclipsed mine, leaving me to wonder, who sees me? A flashback hit, sharp and revealing. I was 28, sitting in our family's Portland living room, Lila, 25, the night she announced she was dropping her art career for a temp job. "It's pointless," she'd said, her voice flat. "I'm not good enough." I'd argued, "You're brilliant, Lila. Keep painting." But Mom had cut in, her voice slurred from wine. "Nora's right, but you're practical, Lila. Nora's got her career, her life. You need stability." The words had stung, Mom's praise for me a subtle dismissal of Lila, but I'd let it pass, too busy with work with Theo. Now I saw it. How Mom's comparisons, Dad's reliance on me, had fed Lila's insecurity, making her feel less. Did I enable it? My inner voice pressed, doubt gnawing. I tried to lift her, but had I been blind to her pain, too caught in my role as the golden child? I caught Theo's eye across the room, his steady nod a reminder of our vows, our future. But Lila's words, "You're sailing away," clung to me, her resentment a mirror to my own buried hurt. I'd spent years seeking my family's approval, smoothing their edges, but at what cost? My nonprofit job, my love for Theo, my own dreams of writing, they'd been sidelined by their chaos. I'm done fixing them, I thought, a spark of resolve igniting. I wasn't abandoning Lila, but I couldn't keep sacrificing myself to her pain, to Mom's fragility, to Dad's avoidance. I moved toward Mom, needing clarity before the night ended. She was alone, sipping coffee, her napkin shredded in her lap. The storm's roar softened as I sat, the hall's warmth a contrast to the chill in my heart. "Mom," I said, my voice low, "Lila's falling apart, and you're acting like it's nothing. What's going on? Did you know she felt this way?" Mom's eyes widened, her hands trembling. "Nora, she's been struggling. Her job's unsteady. She's lonely. I thought the wedding would lift her, but," she trailed off, her gaze flicking to Lila, now dancing with forced energy. "You're so strong, Nora. We've always leaned on you." Her words were a blade, confirming what I'd feared. "Leaned on me," I said, my voice sharp but controlled. "You leaned on me, through Dad's bankruptcy. You're drinking Lila's doubts. But no one's asked what I need. Lila thinks I'm leaving her, but I've been here, carrying all of you. When do I get to be enough?" Mom's face crumpled, tears welling. "I didn't realize, Nora. I thought you were okay, that you had Theo. Lila's so fragile, we've been focused on her." Her admission was a wound, but also a release. "Fragile Lila, steady Nora," my inner voice mocked, anger flaring. I'd been cast as a rock, but rocks erode, and I was tired. "I'm not okay," I said, my voice breaking. "I love you, but I can't keep being your anchor. Lila's pain isn't mine to fix, and neither is yours." I stood, my heart pounding, the words a declaration, a line drawn in the sand. Mom reached for me, but I stepped back, needing space. The hall felt smaller, the guests' chatter a distant hum, the storm's rhythm urging me forward. I glanced at Lila, her mask slipping as she caught my eye, her expression a mix of guilt and defiance. "What are you hiding?" I wondered, the stakes rising. Her resentment wasn't just jealousy, it was something deeper, a plan or secret I couldn't yet see. Theo approached, sensing my shift, his hand warm on mine. "Nora, you're shaking. What's happening?" "I told Mom I'm done carrying them," I said, my voice steady despite the tears. "I love Lila, but I can't fix her. I need to choose me, Theo, for us." His nod was a vow, his eyes fierce with support, and I felt a weight lift, a decision forming. The turning point came as I stood alone by the window, the storm's gray light washing over me. I was no longer seeking their approval, no longer the sister who'd mend every crack. My resistance was subtle but profound. I'd set a boundary, a refusal to be their savior. But I needed more, a plan to protect myself, to face Lila's brewing storm. I decided to confront her after the reception, not to fix her but to demand the truth, to set terms for our relationship. If she couldn't meet me halfway, I'd step back, preserving my heart for Theo, for the life we'd build. It was logistical, planning a private talk, maybe with Theo present, but deeply emotional, a severance of my role as the family's glue. A memory flashed. Lila at 15, sketching me by the river, her eyes bright. "You're my hero, Nora," she'd said. I'd laughed, but now I saw the weight of that role, how it had shaped us both. "I'm not your hero anymore," my inner monologue declared, a mix of sorrow and strength. I was flawed, too eager to please, too blind to Lila's pain, but I was resilient, ready to choose myself. The decision was painful, a cut to the family I loved, but it was mine, a step toward independence. As the reception wound down, Lila approached, her face pale, her voice low. "Nora, I didn't mean to ruin your day." Her eyes held something, regret, maybe, or a hint of what was coming, but she didn't explain. "We'll talk later," I said, my voice firm, a promise of confrontation, not reconciliation. She nodded, turning away, and I felt the stakes rise, her silence a warning. The storm outside softened, but inside, a new one brewed, its shape still veiled. I held Theo's hand, my heart steady, ready to face whatever Lila hid, my independence a quiet fire that would guide me through the dark. The Oregon storm had softened to a drizzle, its gray veil lifting as dawn crept over the driftwood lodge, the Pacific's restless churn a quiet hum below the cliffs. At 31, I, Nora, stood on the edge of my wedding night, my lace dress discarded for a sweater and jeans, my heart raw from Lila's betrayal and the family's unspoken weight. Her resentment, "You're sailing away, I'm drowning," had fractured our bond, revealing years of her envy and my own blind role as the family's fixer. I decided to stop seeking their approval, to choose myself, but the reception's end brought a final, devastating blow, one that demanded I reclaim my power in a way that was poetic, piercing, and true to the woman I was becoming. The sea whispered of resilience, and I was ready to answer. The reception had ended hours ago, guests departing into the storm's tail, their toasts and laughter fading like a dream. Theo and I were meant to leave for our honeymoon, a cabin in the Cascades, but Lila's shadow held me back. During the final dance, she'd slipped away, leaving a note on my table, its words a gut punch. "I told Theo you cheated last year. I'm sorry, Nora. I thought it would make him see you're not perfect. I was wrong. The lie was cruel, born of her desperation to dim my light, to keep me from sailing away." Theo, reading it beside me, had held my hand, his trust unshaken. "I know you, Nora," he'd said, his voice fierce. "She's hurting, but this isn't you." His belief was a lifeline, but Lila's betrayal, exposing her pain through a lie meant to break us, was a wound I couldn't ignore. I found her in the lodge's garden, a rocky patch overlooking the sea, the dawn's light painting her emerald dress in muted tones. She sat on a bench, her hair loose, her face streaked with tears. The storm's aftermath left puddles at our feet, the air sharp with salt and regret. My inner monologue roared, "How could you? After everything, you tried to ruin me!" But I saw her fragility, her eyes mirroring the sister I'd loved, and felt a tug of sorrow. I was resilient, but flawed, angry but aching for her. This was my moment to reclaim my power, not through rage, but through a truth that would set me free. "Lila," I said, my voice low, steady, the sea's rhythm grounding me, "you crossed a line. You lied to Theo, tried to break us, because you're hurting. I see your pain, but this isn't love." She looked up, her hazel eyes wide, raw. "Nora, I didn't mean. I just wanted you to stay, to need me like I need you." Her voice broke, her hands trembling. "You're always ahead, and I'm nothing. I thought if Theo doubted you, you'd falter like me." Her confession was a knife, her envy and grief laid bare, but it also freed me. "She's drowning, but I can't sink with her," my inner voice declared, a clarity born of months of carrying their weight. I'd been the fixer, the golden child, but I'd overlooked my own needs, my own scars. A flashback surfaced. Lila at 16, sketching by the river, her laughter bright. I'd promised to protect her, but I hadn't seen how my strength, my role, had cast her in shadow. "I didn't mean to hurt you," I thought, but her lie, her silence, was a choice, and I had to make mine. I sat beside her, the bench cold, the sea's whisper urging me forward. "Lila," I love you, but I'm not your anchor anymore, I said, my voice calm but unyielding. I've carried Mom, Dad, you, through drinking, debts, doubts, but I've lost myself. Your lie was cruel, and I can't trust you now. I'm choosing me, my life with Theo, my own heart. She sobbed, reaching for me, but I held up a hand, my boundary a quiet fire. I'm not cutting you out, I continued, but we need space. When you're ready to face your pain, to talk without hurting me, I'll listen. Until then, I'm letting go. My words were my revenge, not a scream but a poem, a reclamation of my power through truth and distance. I wasn't destroying her. I was setting us both free. Her pain no longer my burden, my worth no longer tied to her approval. Lila's face crumpled, her voice a whisper. I'm sorry, Nora. I don't know how to fix this. Her apology was real, but incomplete, her motives still blurred by envy and grief. I nodded, tears falling, but stood, the sea's vastness a mirror to my resolve. I'm enough, my inner monologue affirmed, a shift from fixer to self. I'd changed, not just in action but in soul, no longer the sister who smoothed every edge, but a woman who chose her own tide. Back inside, I found Mom and Dad, their faces weary, the lodge's cedar scent heavy with endings. Lila told Theo a lie. I said, my voice steady, to hurt me. I've told her we need space. I'm not carrying this family anymore. I love you, but I need you to see me, not just your strong daughter. Mom's eyes filled, her hand clutching mine. Nora, I didn't know how much we leaned on you. I'm sorry. Dad nodded, his silence heavy, his guilt a start but not a fix. Their apologies were a crack in the wall, a chance for later healing, but I didn't need them to feel whole. I hugged them, my heart lighter, and returned to Theo, his arms a home where I was seen. My resistance was subtle but profound. A letter, written that night in our hotel, to Lila, Mom, and Dad. I poured out my truth, my sacrifices, my pain, my love, ending with, I'm stepping back, not out of anger, but to live. I hope you find your way as I'm finding mine. I'd mail it later, a quiet act of justice, exposing their blindness while offering a door for future reconciliation. It's timing theirs to choose. It was nonviolent, poetic, a mirror to their flaws and my strength, earned through months of facing their storm. Theo and I left for our honeymoon, the Cascades quite a balm after the coast's roar. I stood by our cabin's window, the forest soft with mist, my notebook open. I wrote not for them, but for me, a story of a woman who'd learned to sail her own sea. I was changed, internally free, my power not in fixing others but in choosing myself. Lila's betrayal lingered, an ambiguity I couldn't resolve, but her letter, tucked in my bag, hinted at a future where we might meet again, not as fixer and fragile but as equals. The dawn broke, the mountains glowing, and I felt the tide within me settle. I was Nora, flawed but fierce, my heart a compass guiding me home. The sea had taught me resilience, and I carried it now, a quiet strength that would echo beyond the storm, a promise to live unmoored yet whole.